Hello, and thank you for taking the time to learn more about the current elementary and middle school boundary proposals. My name is Matt Andrews, and I am the Assistant Superintendent for Dunlap School District. I will apologize in advance for the length of this video and presentation, but given the impact that this will have on our families and students, a comprehensive overview of the process, data, and discussion of the proposals is important. This presentation will review the feedback collection, directions, and procedures, the boundary update process, as well as the timeline, review the goal of the Boundary Advisory Committee, as well as the purpose and guiding principles governing this process, an overview of the data considered and evaluated during this process, and a summary of the SWOT analysis that was performed by the Boundary Advisory Committee. If you've had students in the district before this year, something you may recall from previous communication I have sent out is my belief that one of our district's greatest assets is that of our partnership with our families. Dunlap School District thrives for many reasons, chief among them being the strong partnership between our schools and homes. As such, Dunlap School community is invited to provide feedback to the updated boundary proposals by means of a feedback form. The form can be accessed via the link included in the email this presentation was initially sent with, as well as the QR code or bit.ly on this slide, as well as on the Boundary Advisory page on our district website. The boundary process started with high-level discussions when discussing the Wilder Way building project and discussing enrollment constraints at each of our elementary buildings. Administration was given the guidance to balance enrollment across our elementary buildings and ensure the same at our middle schools, while also examining transportation efficiencies. Deeper data dive started in the fall of 2025 during a first phase titled Data Study and Proposal Ideation. Each subdivision or neighborhood or geographic location in our district was mapped to determine grade level ages and total enrollment. During phase 2, district administration presented the draft proposals to the entire Dunlap administrative team for feedback. Several meetings took place examining the impact of buildings, discussing the appropriate steps that would need to occur with any program changes, and receiving additional feedback for transportation considerations. Phase 3 involved presenting the proposals to the Boundary Advisory Committee and conducting a SWOT analysis of each proposal. Presentation and proposal changes were sought before presenting the proposals to the committee on Thursday, August 6th, and now via recording. Phase 4 is conducted on the proposal presentations and seeking feedback from the community at large to receive any additional considerations for potential revision and improvements and ensure questions are answered along the way. Once the feedback window closes at the end of August, the qualitative data will be disaggregated and organized into themes, reviewed, and have any applicable suggestions used for proposal updates. Summary feedback will be posted on the Boundary Update webpage on our website. Updated proposals will then be brought to the Boundary Advisory Committee to be reviewed and again provide final feedback. Before that, those final proposals are then provided to the community via the Boundary Update webpage, posting on our district social media, as well as email communication. During Phase 5, the boundary proposals will be presented to the Dunlap Board of Education. This timeline lists the dates that coincide with the phases discussed previously. The target dates for board approval are listed in the bottom right-hand corner. The proposals will be presented at the Wednesday, October 21st Board of Education meeting as an information item. No vote occurs during this meeting, rather the formal proposal is presented with board member discussion. At the Wednesday, November 18th Board of Education meeting, the board will vote upon the presented proposals for elementary and middle school boundaries that would go in effect for the 27-28 school year. The ultimate goal of the updated boundaries within our district's footprint is to balance enrollment at our elementary and middle schools. The opening of the new and larger Wilder Way and residential development within our district are all contributing factors as to why all 5 elementary and both middle school boundaries are being evaluated and considered for update during this process. When developing the proposals, the guiding principles considered enrollment data and future growth projections, feedback from community stakeholders and committee members, streamlined bus routes that consider proximity to assigned schools and route times, impact to any funding statuses, such as Title I funding, and the reassignment of staff members. Not listed is the impact on students, which the administration knows will occur as a result of the boundary changes. While there's great excitement around the opening of a new Wilder Way, new boundaries and a new environment also elicits understandable frustration and anxiety with any students who will need to change attendance centers. Planning for and developing discussions around transitioning to a new school, maintaining friendships, and building new friendships will be part of the internal discussions with our district psychologists, social workers, and counselors in an effort to develop meaningful activities and events to help with that transition. We are incredibly thankful to the Boundary Advisory Committee for taking the time to comb through the draft proposals and provide feedback. The Boundary Advisory Committee was comprised of Dunlap administrators, staff members, board members, and parents, representation from each of our buildings. The Boundary Advisory Committee is able to help the Dunlap District Administration achieve our goal by sharing additional considerations about the needs of the district that could be improved through the boundary update process and providing feedback to proposals presented for boundary updates. Next, we'll move on to the data consideration. While there are newer subdivisions with development still occurring, the only new on the books at this time residential development within our footprint is Gray Oak Estates. The 115 proposed plot subdivision is not slated to have completed homes until fall of 2028. This subdivision is located off of North Knoxville, immediately behind Augusta Estates, but accessible from Knoxville, not Allen Road. Through internal tracking and study, as well as data studies conducted and provided through PowerSchool Enrollment Analytics, Dunlap School District monitors development across the district and enrollment patterns. Enrollment projections are provided by PowerSchool Enrollment Analytics, which are used to help us forecast the district's needs each year, as well as looking into the future. The projections have two models, a conservative model and a moderate model. As the name suggests, the conservative projections are lower than that of the moderate, and what this provides is an estimated range based on multi-year data study as to what we can expect in future enrollment. Over the next 5 years, an estimated 300 residential units are projected to be built. Both provided analytics and our increased enrollment across the district for the past nearly almost 3 decades do show that as residential growth occurs, families with school-age children or those soon to start a family increase. Based on census data, the median age within our boundaries is between the ages of 35 to 46, or the ages in life where if adults choose to have a family, they would have school-age children who would potentially then go to our district schools. When examining our elementary boundaries, the location of our elementary schools do create some confusion and frustration as many homes and apartments are close to each elementary building. And that's because, as the map shows, Banner, Hickory Grove, and Wilder Waite are all within a short distance of each other at close to a mile. The close proximity does make drawing clear boundaries a bit of a challenge, especially when examining subdivision populations and the number of school-age children enrolled in our district. Additionally, it is important to note that when examining how to update boundaries to account for the building of a new Wilder Waite, over half of our current kindergarten through 6th grade students reside within a small portion of the district's entire footprint, all within a close distance to our 3 close elementary schools, Banner, Hickory Grove, and Wilder Waite. While our district has been experiencing continued growth for many years, the past 2 and upcoming school year will mark 3 years of continued decrease in enrollment across our elementary buildings. While you do see a change of 145 from 2026 to 2027, it is important to note that it is across all 5 of our elementary buildings, 6th grade levels in each, and over 90 classrooms. This is when it's important to look at enrollment projections and what we realize locally each year. Kindergarten enrollment is a helpful key indicator of enrollment when projecting district enrollment. For some time, we had a range of 5 to 20% increase in enrollment when comparing incoming kindergarten students to graduating seniors. Within recent years, we have seen a decrease in this number. At the same time, we do have our middle schools receiving our largest cohort of students currently, which will eventually matriculate to Dunlap High School. Dunlap Middle School is projected to have over 600 students through 2031, with both Dunlap Middle and Dunlap Valley Middle Schools projected to have their enrollment balanced starting with the 2032 school year. Dunlap High School is projected to have an enrollment in excess of 1,500 students through 2034. Examining our school capacities continues to be part of our ongoing analysis and is contributing reason as to why a new and larger Wilder weight was deemed necessary. While enrollment is projected to decrease, as is within our buildings, examining what the capacity is and realizing the percentages are across all grade levels within each building must occur and needs to be evaluated. Hickory Grove has swelled in enrollment in excess of 800 students. When developed, the build 650 was the targeted maximum enrollment. As our district has grown, reconstituting and repurposing classroom spaces, such as the music band room, art room, computer lab, and changing space for early childhood classrooms has allowed us to assume that increase to student enrollment, but is not an efficient use of space and has meant completely full or near full classrooms at each of our grade levels for several years in a row. For the current school year, as of Friday, August 7th, we do have 121 new students across the district. New student growth to the district from now through 2031 do estimate 20 to 35 new students due to new home growth. But as we see each year and within the coming year too, we continue to have new students across the district. This helps us to understand and trust enrollment projections, knowing that when current homes sell or apartment spaces become available, families with school-age children do indeed move to Dunlap. When examining and considering the enrollment and analytics provided to the district, we find most grade level enrollment projections are in line with moderate growth projections. Kindergarten is currently more aligned with the conservative models. So it's not as easy as taking a look at that formal report and knowing for sure. We just need to look at this projection and that will help us make the best decisions. It's really knowing locally what's happening and being able to determine which are we more in trend with, and that is how we are able to make better informed decisions. All right, transitioning now to discussing our elementary building specifics. Currently, all classrooms at each of our elementary buildings are being utilized, many for different purposes than originally intended. Many have our specialist teachers art, music, world language without a classroom, and they travel from room to room throughout the day or share spaces with other teachers or service providers. Banner Elementary School houses our Life Skills program, which is comprised of 3 classrooms and a sensory room and motor lab. Hickory Grove Elementary School houses our STARS Autism classroom. It is the hope to expand the program by an additional classroom in the future. Ridgeview Elementary School houses our BEST program, comprised of one K2 and 1 through 5 classroom. And Wilder Wake Grade School houses our instructional program, with, for the start of the 26-27 school year, is now comprised of 3 classrooms, a K1, a 2-3, and a 4-5 classroom. All classrooms at both our middle schools are being utilized, with larger class sizes at Dunlap Middle School, given the current higher enrollment. In terms of special programming, our middle school BEST program is at Dunlap Valley Middle School, and our Life Skills program is at Dunlap Middle School. A previous consideration explored was the idea of elementary attendance centers. What this means is that whole grade levels are devoted to specific buildings. While there have been different types of attendance centers explored, the most recent explored idea was that of a grade level span attendance centers. Without getting into too much detail, while this would allow for a streamlined enrollment across grade levels, meaning instead of having 2 buildings with sets of kindergarten through second grade classrooms, you would have all kindergarten through second grade classrooms in 1 building. In reality, logistically, it would mean having to have different bus routes and 3 different start-stop times at the different buildings. Students in our K2 buildings would start at one time, students in our 3rd through 5th grade buildings would start at another. And then you would have our middle and high school start times starting at a 3rd. This would mean that for some families, they would have to travel to potentially up to 4 different buildings to drop children off, as many of our families do choose to transport their children to and from school. That being thought to be logistically impossible, and the increase needed for transportation was not a viable option. Additionally, taking a look at all elementary boundaries with the goal of maximizing bus route efficiencies and balancing enrollment with respect to building capacity was conducted. Doing so would allow for future growth throughout the district in a much more comprehensive manner. However, this does come back with many drawbacks. Completely redesigning elementary boundaries would have an impact on significantly more students, the guidance being to minimize that number of students who are impacted. At the same time, enrollment projections, incoming kindergarten students, and programming continue to change. After analysis of all considerations, completely new boundaries were not determined to be an appropriate move at this time and are not recommended. Now, we will go ahead and examine the different proposals for school boundary updates. We will begin with elementary boundaries first, then discuss proposals for middle school, as each are independent options. For both elementary proposals, there are a couple of things to keep in mind. All preschool classrooms will be located at the new Wilder Weight. To issue the bonds to pay for construction, it did require us to increase our early childhood education classrooms at the new school site. As designed, the new Wilder Weight will have 4 early childhood classrooms and 4 kindergarten classrooms. This means that we will gain space at 3 of our elementary buildings, 1 additional classroom at Dunlap Grade and Roachtree Elementary respectively, and 2 classrooms at Hickory Grove Elementary School. Currently, as the enrollment analytics software used to examine boundaries and enrollment does not have school year 2027 figures loaded, figures that you will see are based on school year 2026 figures and, when possible, are manually adjusted. First, we'll start with elementary proposal number 1. In proposal number 1, life skills classrooms would move from Banner Elementary School to Hickory Grove. Due to boundary changes to be shown in a few slides and enrollment projections, there would be available classroom space for the transition, and the pod design of the building would allow for a sensory and motor development area within those classrooms. Banner Elementary School would, as a result, gain 4 classrooms. Here you see a map showing Banner Elementary School and the space being utilized. Number of rooms listed are classrooms, with the exception of spaces labeled 207 and 310, which is the Banner office. Here we see a zoomed out view of the Banner Elementary School boundary. There is still more space to the north, but changes to the elementary school's boundaries here are at the affected areas shown by the arrows, not anything to the north. That area remains the same. The boundary change to the western boundary will be discussed further on, and you do see the boundary change there to the southeastern boundary for Banner Elementary School. Here, you do see a zoomed in view of that change to the western boundary of Banner Elementary School. In this proposal, to help with transportation efficiency, it was the recommendation that the Banner boundary be moved to between Bland and Klein Road, North Bland and Klein Road, north of Cedar Hills Drive, which would mean students in and around Bland Road, north of Cedar Hills Drive, as well as students in Woodland Ridge would attend Dunlap Grade School. This second proposed change for the Banner Elementary boundaries affects the southeastern boundary within the Banner boundaries. Within this proposal, the boundary line would move north and straight across Hickory Grove Road. This would mean students residing in Hickory Woods, Oak Brook, Deerbrook Estates, Pembroke, Oak Lynn, Mossville Point, and Oak subdivisions would move from Banner Elementary School to and attend Wilder Weight Grade School. Here we see all our elementary boundaries within the map, but note the rather large span that Dunlap Grade School boundaries covers, despite it being our smallest elementary school. On the top eastern part of its boundaries, you'll see the change that we discussed from Banner Elementary School, and to the south, you'll see the 2 changes to be examined further. First, you'll note the change here, where the western boundaries for Wilder Weight Grade School would shift further east, and so the territory and area along Orange Prairie Road, which would include Woodsage Apartments, would shift to Dunlap Grade School. Next, we'll discuss changes to Hickory Grove Elementary School's boundaries. In yellow, you'll see Hickory Grove's current boundary, with changes to that boundary seen by the darker blue line showing where those boundaries would shift. In this proposal, students residing in Trails Edge condos, Rolling Brook, and Brompton Court, as well as Prairie Vista Apartments, would attend Wilder Weight. Next, for Ridgeview Elementary School, students residing at Grand Prairie Apartments who currently attend Dunlap Grade School, which is within Ridgeview's footprint, would transition and attend Ridgeview Elementary School. This change was seen as a transportation efficiency need so that we did not have different school bus lines crossing paths. Finally, for elementary proposal number 1, this map of Wilder Waite's boundaries captures the proposed changes. This allows the changes to existing boundaries to be seen as the dark blue updated boundary line overlays the current boundaries. This table summarizes the proposed changes for elementary boundary proposal number 1. Subdivisions or geographic locations in apartment complexes that would experience a change in an assigned elementary school are listed with the current and then proposed school. With the changes described in this proposal based on boundary updates, enrollment projections, and classroom movement, classroom space does change, allowing for currently reassigned or traveling staff members to return to original spaces. Under proposal number 1, current and projected enrollment allows us to see what a change to the boundaries would do for grade levels across the district at each of our buildings. As noted at the beginning of this presentation, a goal of this process is to balance elementary school classrooms and prevents instances where new families to the district have to attend buildings outside of their regularly assigned elementary school, and the need to create specialized bus routes which increase overall bus times for students. The table captures the number of sections needed at each grade level, remaining seats, and average class sizes. This is not a final calculation, and total figures would need to be updated once available within the enrollment analytics software. But it does give us a close estimate. Within proposal number 1, we do see a near even distribution of students with IEPs and 504s, and a similar distribution of our multilingual students to that of our current division. If this proposal were selected, a further analysis of the current needs of our students with 504s or IEPs would occur to make sure that staffing could be done appropriately. And examining the Title I percentages is an important consideration. As noted earlier, it does affect how and where Title I funds can be used at our elementary buildings. Under this proposal, the current school-wide status, which allows Wilder Waite to use Title I funds to supplement programming across the entire building, would change so that only programs targeted for students identified as needing Tier 2 support in English language arts, mathematics, and social emotional learning, beyond what is provided to the general education setting, would be able to use said funds. This infographic shows a summary of the changes presented in proposal number 1 for our elementary buildings. Please note the decrease in enrollment at the Hickory Grove Elementary School is a combination not only of the number of students that would move within this boundary proposal, but also due to smaller classroom cohorts rising, as well as those entering this year and projected entering the next year. When evaluating the first proposal, the administrative team noted strengths and challenges. First and foremost, the team is concerned with the culture change that would come as a result of moving our life skills program. The program has long been part of the Banner Elementary School and Banner family, and we know that this would mean a change. At the same time, the shift would have a positive impact on the culture within Hickory Grove Elementary School. It's a thought that by centralizing more special education programs, there would be the reduction of traveling for staff members, or at least the amount of time special education related service staff members would have to travel. The special education administrator assigned to elementary would be able to better support both the life skills and STARS programs that would be housed then at Hickory Grove and not spread across an additional building. At the same time, the proposal does not entirely maximize busing efficiency, and depending upon residential development, does not allow for additional grade level sections at each grade, depending on pockets for projected future enrollment for the next couple of years. And while this is a challenge ensuring our playgrounds, it's listed as a challenge, part of our plan for next steps is to make sure that our playgrounds at our elementary schools are accessible, and that is part, again, of an ongoing facilities plan. Here you will see the results of the SWOT analysis conducted by our Boundary Advisory Committee. Noted strengths include helping the space issues currently seen at Banner and Hickory Grove, consolidating some transportation constraints, and the reduced impact on elementary students. Noted weakness include ensuring that the centralizing of more special education classrooms and the staff members needed for those is possible. Change in how we incorporate within the general education setting would occur for life skills students, and that enrollment numbers are tight at some of the buildings, and in particular grade levels. Noted opportunities include the reduced number of general education teachers at Hickory Grove, but also notes increase to the number of overall staff members with that program centralization as well. Noted threats include the culture at Hickory Grove by many staff members transitioning and changing buildings potentially. But again, as discussed, is impacting all schools with any change. Concern about that transition and that change would be part of planning for the next school year. Next, we'll discuss elementary proposal number 2. In proposal number 2, the life skills classroom would remain at Banner Elementary School. This map shows where changes would occur compared to the current boundary. In this proposal, the southeastern boundary would move further north, including more students transitioning to Wilder Wade Grade School. This change would include Hickory Trace, Hickory Grove Estates, and Bennington Park subdivisions joining the Hickory Woods, Oakbrook, Deerbrook Estates, Pembroke, Oak Lynn, Mossville Point, and Oak subdivisions in that transition to Wilder Wade Grade School. It is still the recommendation within Proposal 2 that the boundary changes to the western portion of Banner's boundaries occur, shifting that boundary for Banner in between Klein and Bland roads. Again, so students in Woodland Ridge and those on Bland Road north of Cedar Hills Drive would transition to Dunlap Grade School within this proposal as well. In this proposal, the same changes that affected Dunlap Grade School are included as well. This includes the just discussed additions of Woodland Ridge and North Bland Road, as well as Woodsage Apartments in Orange Prairie Road joining Dunlap Grade School. Grand Prairie Apartments would transition to Ridgeview Elementary School. In proposal number 2 for Hickory Grove Elementary School, there is a slight change in updated boundaries. In this proposal, students residing in Trails Edge condos, Rolling Brook, and Brompton Court would attend Wilder Wade Grade School. For consistency, this map shows the same proposal from Proposal 1 for Ridgeview Elementary School, wherein Grand Prairie Apartments students would join the Ridgeview Foxes. Again, this map for Wilder Wade shows as the updated footprint for Wilder Wade Grade School with the previously discussed changes for proposal number 2, most notably the raised boundary line change up into the eastern portion of Banner's current boundaries in the top right portion of the map, and then more towards the center of the map, Prairie Vista Apartments staying at Hickory Grove within this proposal. This table outlines the changes that would occur under proposal number 2. Please note the subdivision names bolded indicate that those are in addition when you're comparing the first and second proposals and the effect from current Banner Elementary families. This table shows the breakdown by building and grade level and the effect on grade level enrollment, the number of sections at each grade level, average class size, and remaining seats at each grade level. Total building enrollment compared to school year 2026 is also listed in the far right, and we see that through the proposal we do have a better balancing of enrollment numbers at our elementary buildings, just in a different manner compared to proposal number 1. Similar to proposal number 1, you see 2 updated demographic summaries based on changes presented in proposal number 2. Just like with proposal number 1, a further deep dive into the required services and support for our multilingual learners and students with 504s and IEPs would occur if proposal 2 is selected. The same change of Title I status would occur at Wilder I Wade, in which the building would no longer qualify for Title I school-wide status for Title I fund use, and would transition to targeted support as described within proposal number 1. The impact on the funds allocated is dependent upon the Title I allocation the district receives, which does vary year to year. Based on the current fiscal year 2027 allocation, it is estimated that a potential decrease of up to $50,000 would be possible, again assuming We don't see a significant change in students enrolled in free and reduced lunch, and our allocation, if our allocation were to remain the same. Here you will see a summary infographic of what proposal number presents and the changes in terms of projected students, total sections, and change of enrollment when comparing to school year 2025 enrollment data. Again, because we are taking a look at currently the 2026 data, as school year 2027 has yet to be uploaded into the analytics software. Here you will see a summary of the SWOT analysis results provided by the Boundary Advisory Committee. Noted strengths include that the Life Skills program would remain at Banner Elementary School. It was felt that grade levels were balanced better by the shift, and the noted increase of staff members at Hickory Grove was mentioned. Identified weaknesses include the obvious additional impact of families with this proposal. A concern of the space and impact on Banner was also discussed by several committee members. The desire was mentioned to explore at which grade level and where specifically within the Hickory Grove building classrooms would open up as well, which would occur, of course, when exploring this concept further based on feedback. And this infographic summarizes by topic the differences between proposals 1 and 2 for elementary boundary updates. It also notes what stays the same and what is constant between both proposals, and notes key takeaways. Next, we'll discuss the proposals for our middle school boundaries. Currently, students who attend Banner and Hickory Grove Elementary Schools attend Dunlap Middle School. Students who attend Dunlap Grade, Ridgeview Elementary, and Wilder Wake Grade Schools attend Dunlap Valley Middle School. While geographically the boundary for Dunlap Middle School is smaller than Dunlap Valley, do remember that we have the larger percentage of individuals who fall and live within the Hickory Grove area and eastern portion of our district boundary. Since one of the notes issued is that our elementary schools are unbalanced and overcrowding, that also exists at some grade levels. It may be confusing why we are talking about examining middle school boundaries. Currently, as previously noted, we do have a feeder school pattern where students who attend certain elementary schools attend their respective middle school. If we follow that same current feeder school pattern, we would have an imbalance between Dunlap Middle and Dunlap Valley Middle Schools. The imbalance would be in excess of 100 students per year, which decreases the efficient use of the building space and staffing and resulting in higher class sizes at one versus lower at another. The same balancing between both middle schools must occur just like our elementary schools to make sure we're using taxpayer funds efficiently. Early on during the data review and ideation of boundary updates, and then again during the Boundary Advisory Committee meeting, the idea of switching feeder schools from one middle school to another was explored so that all of our elementary schools transition to the same middle school. This idea of Dunlap grade school switching and attending Dunlap Middle School versus Valley was explored. The thought was that the smallest elementary school shifting from one middle school to the next would account for the increased enrollment that would be realized with the increased enrollment at Wilder Wake. In actuality, it would result in just a further imbalance between our middle schools, so this change is not a recommendation. Under Proposal 1 for middle school boundary changes, students would attend middle schools based on location, not just based on which elementary school they attend with this presented change. So under this proposal, it is suggested that students residing in the Trails Edge condos, Rolling Brook, and Brompton Court subdivisions would attend Dunlap Valley Middle School. This would mean at Wilder Wake grade school where they would attend, they would transition to Dunlap Valley. For the students to the eastern portion, transitioning from Dunlap or to Wilder Wake from Banner Elementary School, they would attend Dunlap Middle School. So rising students in that eastern portion that reside east of Knoxville would attend Dunlap Middle School. With proposal number 1, our middle school enrollment does balance quicker than it is otherwise projected to do without any changes to physical boundary locations currently. For the first proposal, a noted strength is that it does address the imbalance and allows for residential development within Dunlap Middle School boundaries. The challenge within this proposal is that the students in subdivisions east of Knoxville reassigned from Banner will not attend Dunlap Valley with their peers. When changing elementary boundaries and having two larger elementary schools, unfortunately, the feeder school pattern does not allow for balance in enrollment and creates potential overcrowding when considering growth. Next, we will discuss the specifics for middle school boundary proposal number 2. The second proposal for middle school boundaries is to effectively keep the current middle school boundaries the same. In terms of enrollment, this would mean a longer period until enrollment is projected to balance. As the table shows, the difference in enrollment is shown for both proposals, as well as what maintaining our current sister school/feeder school pattern would result in terms of overall enrollment from school year 2028, when boundary proposal changes would go into effect, through 2032. In terms of efficiency, again, the feeder school system under which we have operated does not promote an efficient use of resources and building space. This table captures the SWOT analysis results completed by the Boundary Advisory Committee of both middle school boundary proposals. Strengths note that both attempt to balance school enrollments and do achieve that eventually based on current enrollment projections. It is noted that proposal number 1 balances our middle schools quicker than that of the second, and it does keep most elementary students with their elementary peers as they transition to middle school. Noted weaknesses include that families will have multiple students going to new schools, and which is absolutely an unfortunate side effect of any change that we make. A larger class size for cohort students was identified, as well as one apartment complex seeing several changes throughout the proposals. An opportunity was also noted again to examine the mobility rates within our elementary buildings as well as middle schools, which, as one would affect the other, we would see and realize that at our middle schools. So that was something identified to see. The next steps of our boundary update process is to receive stakeholder feedback through Friday, August 28th. As noted at the beginning, one of our many strengths as a district is our strong partnership with our families. I can't reiterate that enough. In order for our school districts to thrive, as ours continues to do, such a strong partnership must be maintained, and so we are looking for an opportunity to engage with the community and receive feedback to the presented proposals. Once the feedback period closes, the feedback will be reviewed and organized into themes for consideration to update the proposals. At our September 15th Boundary Advisory Committee meeting, updated proposals would be shared with the committee along with the feedback. Final drafts of the proposal to be ultimately presented to the Board of Education would be posted to the district website following any final steps that would need to occur as a result of that September 15th Boundary Advisory Committee meeting. The proposals would be presented formally to the Board of Education on Wednesday, October 21st as an information item. Again, this means the Board of Education would simply hear the recommendation that month. Then, on Wednesday, November 18th, the Board of Education would take formal action and vote upon which proposed boundary update to adopt. Finally, I want to thank you for taking the time to listen to this video and learn more about the data consideration and process that led to the 2 respective proposals for elementary and middle school boundary updates. As the impact to students and families was our first concern, dedicated data reviews and discussions and revisions were part of the formative process and will continue with the feedback provided by the community. Ultimately, whatever is decided will come with additional engagement with our school support staff to make this transition as smooth as possible and help students feel excited for the change to attend a new building, make new friends, while also understanding how we maintain existing friendships. More information will be provided and what that will look like in the coming months. On behalf of the Dunlap administrative team, I want to thank you for your time in reviewing this information and look forward to any and all feedback you can provide.